So last Tuesday, Democrats declared a day for action concerning net neutrality as Senator Ed Markey, a Democrat from Massachusetts, introduced a resolution of disapproval under the Congressional Review Act to overturn the FCC's recent ruling against net neutrality. So let me describe kind of what net neutrality is and actually tell you why it's actually important. So simply, it's a principle that internet service providers, or ISPs, such as Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T, give access to all the content, no matter the source, without blocking particular sites or products or providing preferential treatment to sites. So one example that I can think of is that AT&T owns DirecTV, and so they have an internet streaming service that has videos and things like that. So if they under the new law or lack thereof, they can now assure that their customers either don't have access to streaming services like Netflix or Hulu and have to buy in to their streaming service, which I guess would be offered through DirecTV, or they can slow down sites such as Netflix and Hulu, making it nearly impossible to stream. So they have access to the content, but it's not reliable. They can't stream it because it's too slow. And so then they'll say, well, we have our own streaming service. If you want to pay in to this, you can buy it through us directly. And then they can, raise their prices in that regard. So what net neutrality also does, it gives protections to end users. So in our example, it would have protected them so that they could have all the choices of every streaming service online without having to pay additional costs or additional fee. And it also wouldn't have directed traffic to other sites or blocked them out completely. So in a way that this affects smaller businesses is that they aren't forced to pay extra to help drive traffic to their websites in order to boost sales. So the FCC first adopted the concept of net neutrality into their rules in 2005, stating their reasons as to preserve the vibrant and competitive free market that presently exists for the internet and to promote the continued development of the internet and encourage the deployment on a reasonable and timely basis of advanced telecommunications capability to all Americans. So the policy went on to state that the internet also represents a forum for a true diversity of political discourse, unique opportunities for cultural development, and a myriad of avenues for intellectual activity, as well as plays an important role in the economy as an engine for productivity, growth, and cost savings. So on February 22nd, the FCC, led by Ajit Pai, reversed the protections of net neutrality provided, which will now allow our ISPs to tier their packages so that you'll have to pay extra for more premium services to access the sites that you choose or you want to access. So this is where the Congressional Review Act comes into play. So the CRA was made law under the U.S. Congress in 1996, and it enables the House to overrule recent rules made by the different entities of government with the majority vote. So Senator Markey's resolution currently has the support of 50 senators, and it needs only one more to pass in the Senate. From there, it will move to the House, where as of last Tuesday, it had the support of 150 members of Congress out of the majority of 218 needed to pass. So Ajit Pai, who formerly worked for Verizon, was first appointed to the position in the FCC by the Obama administration, because of course he was. Last year, he was appointed chairman of the FCC with 52 yay votes from the Senate, 4 of which were Democratic senators saying yay. He quickly started working towards dismantling these net neutrality protections. So we're not entirely sure as to what all the new net neutrality rules or lack thereof will bring. Some will go into effect late in April, while others are still awaiting approval. In lieu of Markey's resolution, many states have put out their own plans to help battle the removal of these protections. Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report discussed this in detail on his show last week. He also gives kudos to these activists and millions of people pushing their lawmakers on the issue as seen here.
Now, the only reason why lawmakers are still paying attention to this issue, months after the FCC voted to repeal net neutrality, is partially because the repeal order hasn't actually taken effect yet, but most importantly, it's the activism. It's the pressure that you've put on lawmakers to make sure that this issue doesn't just get ignored. Because what happens in America is that there's this big event, we talk about an issue for a while, and then it goes away. We brush it aside and forget about it. And that's not really to our fault. It's because a lot of things are constantly happening. The news cycle moves fast, and we tend to move on from issues really fast. But when it comes to net neutrality, we've seen this sustained level of pressure on lawmakers that I haven't seen for an issue before. And I think that's because you guys are more mobilized than you've ever been. And it's because we have to be. We can't save net neutrality by sitting idly by and hoping and wishing that our lawmakers do the right thing. We just can't.
So for now, we actually need to push back at every level that we can and reach out to our elected officials and demand that they do the same. So we encourage you guys to reach out to your elected officials and demand support for net neutrality protections or the reinstatement of these protections. And you can actually find out more at battleforthenet.com for more information. And so, Janet, why do you think that net neutrality is actually so important?
First, it's just another hit to the poor because they're not going to be able to afford these premium tiers, and they're going to be beholden to their ISP as to what they can watch or what they're going to have access to, and then that leads to the problems in the small businesses and competitors because you're steering the traffic away from them, and you're giving it to yourself, obviously, or those who are giving you money, and now I don't know. Aren't we supposed to be supportive of our free market?
I think that some people will argue, well, this is the free market. It means that without these net neutrality restrictions, there's less regulation. But I think that they're missing the point that big business does not operate on the good or does not err on the good of humanity. It errs on the good of profits. And so they will try to maximize their profits as much as possible. And a good way to do that is to charge extra for services that you want, or that you didn't used to charge for, but now they will. And so what they'll do in this case is that they'll block sites and they'll slow down sites, giving preferential treatment to the stuff that they want you to see. Now, this has a particular political consequence, at least that I foresee. So you've got big business and you've got our politicians in the pocket of big business, such as Comcast. They paid a lot to congressional members and they donated a lot to their campaigns to assure that these net neutrality restrictions were removed. So when you have an allegiance like that, one thing that they could do is prevent people from seeing opposition. So political opposition or anything on net neutrality. I mean, they'll block people that are speaking out for net neutrality. They'll block people that are speaking out against the government, or they'll block sites. They'll block opposition political candidates. I mean, this can have a slippery slope consequence because when big business, when you owe big business and big business feels like they'll owe you as a politician, they'll do your favors for you so that they can assure maximizing their profit. And that's hugely problematic.
Well, not only in a business world, but in politics as well.
Well, I think I laid out a case of why that would be politically problematic because you won't be able to see opposition candidates. And so the same candidate through our, let's say our democratic process will continue getting elected because it's like, oh, I never heard anything from this opposition candidate or from the other side at all. It was just this one person and they, I know them, I know their face, I know their name, and that's who I'm going to vote for.
I already saw this play out in real time on Twitter the other day. It was Seema Hernandez, who is running against Beto O'Rourke in the Texas, Senate race against Ted Cruz. And she quote tweeted a Latino group that's supposed to be amplifying the Latino voices, but they were they kept putting out tweets about Beto O'Rourke and not her. So she said, hey, what you doing here? Because I'm the Latina running, and here you are, amplifying Beto's, Beto. And I think she said it in a little bit snarkier way, but I mean, still. And then, their answer to that, why they weren't amplifying her, is because she's not seen on mainstream media. Like, how is she supposed to get her attention if a group that is supposed to be amplifying Latino voices will not amplify hers?
Right. And I mean, this could have serious consequences politically. If a message is already having difficulty getting out to the public, the internet can now assure that message never reaches the public, because a lot of us consume our information and our news via the internet. It's fast, it's generally reliable way to do that. And you can get a whole host of differing opinions so that you can hopefully formulate your own. But if you're only fed one opinion, you'll never formulate your own, because you only see one perspective. And that's a problem that we will face with these net neutrality protections gone.